The Galactic Council Hall was the largest room in the galaxy. It was built on a floating platform above a quiet red star, with shining walls made of crystal and silver. Leaders from over 200 alien species sat in wide circles, their eyes and ears focused on the center stage. It was the day for Earth's ambassador to speak. For most aliens in the room, it was just another moment to laugh. Ambassador Reeve walked slowly to the center. He wore a simple black suit, nothing special. No armor, no glowing cloak, no translator floating above his head. His skin was pale, his eyes calm, and his steps silent. He looked weak compared to the other species. Some had tall horns, some had armored skin, and some had loud metal suits. But Reeve stood alone with no fear in his eyes. As he reached the center, a small round alien with 6 eyes and a long nose shouted, "Oh no, not the crying humans again." Laughter filled the hall. Another alien stood up and added, "Will you speak of love and peace again? Maybe sing a sad Earth song too." The crowd roared with laughter. One creature slapped its tail on the ground, shaking the floor. Reeve waited. He didn't speak. He didn't even smile. He looked at the laughing crowd as if they were children playing a game they didn't understand. After a moment, he bent down, opened a small black case, and placed it gently on the table in front of him. Then he pressed a silver button. A quiet hum filled the air. A blue light shot up from the case and formed a 3D image in the air above it. It showed something that made the laughter stop. The hologram was a clear copy of a secret meeting between 3 alien leaders, talking in low voices about a secret attack plan. Their faces were sharp and serious. One of them whispered, "If Earth grows stronger, we activate the backup code." Another said, "Yes, humans are not ready. They're soft." Gasps filled the hall. Some aliens looked at each other in panic. Others sat frozen. The 3 leaders in the recording were now in the room, their faces red with fear. Reeve finally spoke, his voice slow and clear. "We have been listening for years," he said. "Not spying, just listening." A tall green alien stood up, his voice shaking. "This is fake. Earth doesn't have the technology for this." Reeve looked at him. "Your communication systems are built with crystal lenses made on the moon of Veros. We've had engineers on Veros for 10 years. Then he pointed to the image. "This was recorded 3 weeks ago, inside a private council chamber. Do you remember that room?" The green alien sat down, speechless. Reeve continued, "You think Earth is weak, that we cry too much, that we don't understand war. But while you laughed, we listened. While you watched our emotions, we watched your plans." The room was silent now. No one laughed. No one whispered. Every eye was on the human. Reeve pressed the button again. Another hologram appeared. It was a recording of a secret deal between 2 species to create a fake war, so they could ask for council funding. The room exploded into shock again. Some aliens began to shout. Others pointed fingers. Chaos was rising. But Reeve raised his hand, and somehow everyone went quiet. "We did not come to attack you," he said. "We came to show you the truth." Someone from the back shouted, "Why now?" Reeve answered without blinking, "Because you finally laughed too loud." He stepped back, leaving the small case open. More holograms floated slowly into the air, dozens of them, each one showing secret conversations, plans, lies, and hidden codes. The council leaders sat frozen. Their secrets, collected and stored by humans, were now floating in front of everyone. Reeve looked around the room one last time. "You thought Earth was alone. You thought humans were weak, but the quiet ones are always listening. And sometimes they hear everything." He turned and walked away from the center of the hall, his steps just as calm as before. But now, no one laughed. As the last hologram faded from the air, the room remained silent. No one moved. No one knew what to say. For years, they had believed Earth was slow, emotional, and harmless. Now they were starting to see something very different. Ambassador Reeve walked back to the center of the hall. His face was calm, but his eyes held something sharp, something dangerous. He opened the case again and brought out a small metal sphere, no bigger than a fruit. It floated into the air and began to glow softly. "This," Reeve said, "is not a weapon. It's a listener." The alien leaders leaned forward, watching closely. The sphere turned slowly in the air. It looked harmless, simple, but Reeve wasn't done. "This little device has no guns, no shields, no engine. It doesn't attack. It only listens. It records sound, movement, heat, and light. It uses alien tech combined with human upgrades, and it is invisible to every scan your species has." A short, red-skinned alien stood up and shouted, "That's a lie. Nothing can pass through our council ship shields without being detected." Reeve looked directly at him. "One of these listeners has been inside your ship for 2 years. Do you want to hear what your captain says when he's alone?" The alien sat back down slowly. Reeve raised his hand. The metal sphere projected a soft recording into the air. Just a voice. It was the red alien's captain, talking to someone. "If humans ever build their own fleet, we press the virus button. We shut them down." Gasps echoed across the hall. The red alien covered his face. Reeve let the recording stop. "We placed thousands of these listeners across your systems, not to harm you, just to know you better." Another leader stood up, an insect-like creature with clear wings. "How did you do this?" "We scan every visitor. Our tech is the most advanced." Reeve answered, "You scan for metal, heat, and chemicals. Our listeners are made from organic shells, grown in labs. They change their shape, adapt to the air, and hide in plain sight." He walked a few steps forward. "You didn't notice them because you didn't think humans could build something better than you." The insect leader sat down, her wings trembling. Reeve pressed another button. The hologram changed to a star map. Red dots appeared across many planets, moons, and space stations. "Each dot," he said, "is a place where one of our listeners has recorded your secrets." The council members stared at the map. There were hundreds of red dots, maybe more. Some were even near their home worlds. "Why would you do this?" asked a voice from the back. "Why listen to us if we never attacked you?" Reeve looked toward the voice. "Because Earth is not foolish. We watched your actions. You never trusted us. You smiled in public and planned in private. So we stayed quiet and collected your truths." The room was growing colder. The leaders no longer looked proud. Their eyes were full of worry. Then Reeve spoke again. "You think we humans are loud because we speak of love and peace, but in truth, we are the best listeners." He paused and let his words sink in. "One of your species planned to flood Earth's data systems with fake peace messages," Reeve continued. "Another tried to break our food supply chain. Another made a secret lab to copy human DNA and create a fake ambassador." As he spoke, holograms showed proof of each plan. Dates, places, voices. It was all real. And still, Reeve said, "We never attacked. We only watched, because humans believe in waiting for the right moment." A tall alien leader, old and wise, spoke for the first time. "What do you want from us?" Reeve looked at him and said, "The truth. The real one. Not your fake handshakes. Not your secret codes. Just the truth." The old leader nodded slowly. For the first time, he didn't look down at the human. He looked across, like equals. Reeve closed the metal case. The listener floated back into it and disappeared. He looked around the hall. "Earth is done pretending. We are here. We are awake. And we hear everything." Then he turned and stepped away again, leaving behind a room full of powerful beings who, for the first time, felt powerless. The room was still, as if the very air had frozen. The alien leaders were no longer laughing. Some were even shaking their heads in disbelief. Earth's ambassador, Reeve, had just revealed secrets that none of them could deny. The stories of Earth's quiet strength had been laid bare. Now, The next question was hanging in the air. Why? The voice came from a large creature with 3 sets of eyes and scales like glass. Why wait? Why not use this information before? Why not expose us when you first found out? Reeve paused. He glanced around the room, meeting the eyes of each leader. There was no rush in his movements, no sign of panic. He simply stood there, his hands resting calmly by his side. We waited, Reeve said slowly, his voice even. Because Earth is not like the other species in this room. We don't act on emotion alone. We act when we are ready. Another leader, a sharp-featured creature with long horns, snorted. Ready for what? To destroy us? To wage war? Reeve shook his head. No, we did not wait to destroy you. We waited to understand you. A strange silence fell again. The alien leaders looked at each other, confused. They had expected anger, revenge, maybe even violence. But Earth had chosen to wait, to gather information, to listen. Reeve continued, his eyes scanning the room. You are not the first to think of Earth as a target. Long before we knew about your plans, we heard whispers, faint at first, but then clearer. You had backup plans for everything. If we became too strong, you had a plan to take us down. If we made an alliance with the wrong species, you had a plan to break that too. But we listened. The creature with 3 sets of eyes snarled. And what did you do with the information? Nothing. No, Reeve replied firmly. We waited. Why? The question was growing louder now, as if they couldn't understand. Why not strike back when we first showed our true intentions? Because Reeve said, his voice growing colder, we wanted to know the truth. Not just about your plans, but about how you would react. How you would treat us once you knew we were not as weak as you thought. A younger alien, smaller and quick-moving, raised his hand. You waited to see how long we would lie. Reeve nodded. Yes, we needed to understand how far your lies went. If we attacked without knowing everything, we would be no better than you. But now, we know. And we know exactly how you think. The leaders were shifting in their seats now, uneasy. One of the oldest, a being whose skin shimmered like liquid metal, spoke softly. You knew about all our plans, and you did nothing. Reeve's eyes were hard. We did nothing, because we had to see the bigger picture. We had to see how far you would go. And now, we know everything. We know you are not to be trusted. But more importantly, we know you fear humans. That last statement hung in the air. The fear in the room was now palpable. The leaders who had once laughed at humans were now sitting in silence, the weight of their own actions crushing them. You were afraid, Reeve continued, because you saw what we could become. You saw our potential, and you knew that if humans ever united fully, if we ever reached the stars with the power we have now, we could take over everything. So you prepared for that moment. And we watched. Reeve looked around the room, meeting every leader's eyes once more. We did not wait to destroy you. We waited to give you a chance to show your true faces. And now we know what you truly are. An uncomfortable murmur swept through the room. Some of the leaders stood up and paced. Others stared down, avoiding Reeve's gaze. They had all underestimated Earth. They had believed that humanity, with its emotions and chaotic ways, was nothing more than a passing moment in the grand scheme of the galaxy. But Reeve's calm, steady words had cracked their false security wide open. So now that you know the truth, Reeve said quietly, the real question is, what will you do about it? No one answered. The alien leaders didn't know what to say. They had been caught, and they knew it. Reeve's calmness and patience had won the battle. Earth's ambassador had shown them that silence, patience, and listening were weapons far more powerful than anything they had ever imagined. Reeve stood tall in the center of the room. We did not wait for you to make mistakes, he said. We waited to see if you would change. But now we see that nothing will change unless we make it happen. He turned, his eyes moving slowly across the room. Earth is not your enemy. But if you continue down this path, we will be. With those words, Reeve walked away from the center of the room, leaving behind a council that had no answers, only fear, only doubt. And for the first time in a long time, they realized they had underestimated the one species they thought was no threat at all. The tension in the room was unbearable. The alien leaders sat frozen, their eyes locked on Ambassador Reeve, who now stood in the center, his presence as powerful as ever. The council had been left with a choice. They could either confront Earth, continuing their secret plots, or they could face the truth and acknowledge the growing power of humanity. A moment passed, and then a deep voice broke the silence. It was the old leader, the one with the shimmering liquid metal skin. He stood slowly, his posture rigid, but his eyes no longer held the same arrogance they once had. "We cannot ignore this," he said, his voice shaking just slightly. "What you've shown us, Reeve, it cannot be erased. It's not just the recordings. It's the fact that you've been listening to us all along. We didn't think you were capable of it." Reeve's gaze never wavered. He simply stood still, waiting for the old leader to continue. "We underestimated you," the old leader admitted. "And now we must ask ourselves, what is the cost of underestimating a species that listens when everyone else ignores?" The alien leaders began to look at each other, murmuring quietly. For the first time, the fear that had gripped them seemed to give way to something else. Perhaps a glimmer of respect, though it was hard to tell. A younger leader, one with jagged crystalline arms, stepped forward. He was trembling, but his voice was steady. "What do you want, Reeve? You've shown us what you can do. You've shown us the depths of your patience. But what is it that you truly want from us now?" Reeve's answer came after a long pause. "I want peace, real peace, not the kind that comes from pretending to be allies. I want peace built on trust, not lies. I want to know that if humanity is to become part of this galaxy, it will be with honesty." The young leader frowned, clearly confused. "You want us to trust you? After everything we've seen, how can we do that?" Reeve's eyes softened just slightly. "You don't have to trust us right away, but you have to understand this. We are not like the species you've dealt with before. We don't play games with lives. We don't make secret deals or hide our true intentions. We want peace, yes, but we also want the truth." The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. The alien leaders shifted in their seats, their minds racing. The power dynamic had shifted. The smug confidence that had once filled the room was now gone. Instead, there was uncertainty, fear, and the realization that they had made a mistake, a dangerous mistake. A voice broke through the tension, low and calm. It was the insect-like leader, who had been silent for most of the meeting. She spoke slowly, her wings vibrating softly as she moved. "We are not ready for the truth, Reeve. Not yet. The Council has always thrived on secrets. Our strength has always come from being one step ahead of our enemies. But now," she paused and looked around at her fellow leaders, "now we face a choice. Do we continue with our old ways, keeping secrets and pretending to control everything? Or do we step into the light, into a new way of doing things, where truth is our weapon and not our weakness?" The room was still. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, the old leader stood again, his posture strong, but his voice gentle. "Perhaps it is time for change," he said. "Perhaps it is time for us to face the truth we've been avoiding for so long. Perhaps it is time for us to stop hiding and start working together." Reeve's expression remained calm. "It's not easy to change," he said, "but it's the only way forward. If we want peace, if we want to avoid a war that none of us can win, we have to face the truth, all of us, and we have to trust each other." The alien leaders looked around the room once more, some exchanging glances, others lost in thought. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. After a long silence, the insect-like leader finally nodded. "I agree," she said, her voice steady. "It won't be easy, but we can try. We can try to build a new future, one where the truth is stronger than our secrets. The young leader who had first spoken also nodded, though his expression was still filled with doubt. This will not be easy, but perhaps it's time we learn to listen as well. Reeve looked at them, his face betraying no emotion. I'm glad you understand, he said quietly, because the truth is, the galaxy doesn't have room for more lies. If we are to move forward, we must do so together. No more secrets, no more games, only truth. As the last words left Reeve's mouth, the council room fell into a strange, hopeful quiet. The decision had been made. The path ahead would not be simple, but it was the only path that mattered now. For the first time, Earth had shown the galaxy that patience and truth could be more powerful than any weapon, more valuable than any strategy. And as the leaders began to talk among themselves, Reeve quietly stepped away, knowing that the real battle was just beginning. But at least now, there was hope. The final moments of the council meeting were quieter than anyone had expected. The alien leaders had gathered into small groups, discussing among themselves in low voices. There was still tension in the air, but something else had begun to take root, hope mixed with uncertainty. Earth had just shown them the power of truth, and it was clear now that the galaxy would never be the same. Reeve watched from the side, his posture relaxed, but his mind sharp. He could hear the whispers of the leaders, each one processing what had just happened. It wasn't just about the secrets they had kept, it was about the world they were now facing. A world where honesty mattered more than power, where trust would shape the future. After a long time, the old leader, the one who had first spoken about the cost of underestimating humanity, stood up. He raised his hand, and the room quieted immediately. All eyes turned to him. We are at a crossroads, he began, his voice deep and steady. What Reeve has shown us is undeniable. Our past ways are no longer enough. We can no longer hide behind secrets or lies. If we are to survive, we must change. The room was still. The leaders were listening, each one aware of the gravity of the moment. This change will not be easy, the old leader continued. It will take time, but it must be done. The galaxy cannot remain in the shadows of deception. The truth will be our guide, and we will build a future not based on fear or power, but on trust. A quiet murmur passed through the room. For the first time, the alien leaders seemed to agree on something. They were no longer enemies, divided by their own secrets. They were allies, on the verge of creating something new. Reeve stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room. We are all aware of what is at stake, he said. The galaxy is vast, but it is also fragile. If we continue to operate from a place of fear, we will destroy what we've worked for. Humanity doesn't want to be the ruler of the stars. We want to be a part of something greater, a galaxy where peace, truth, and cooperation are the foundation of everything. The insect-like leader, who had spoken so strongly before, now looked around the room with a sense of finality. This will be our new goal, she said. We will work together to build this future. We will share knowledge, technology, and resources. We will no longer make decisions in secret. We will have open meetings where the truth is spoken plainly. And we will trust each other to act with honor. The room was silent for a moment, as if everyone was waiting for something. Reeve's gaze shifted across the alien leaders, each one waiting for the next step. They had agreed to the truth, but the road ahead would still be full of challenges. One of the younger leaders, who had shown doubt earlier, now stood. His voice was firm but uncertain. I don't know if we are ready to change everything, he said. There are too many risks, too many things we've kept secret for a reason. How can we trust each other? Reeve nodded slowly. I understand your concerns. Change is never easy. But the truth doesn't mean weakness. It means strength. If we can trust each other, we can build something that lasts. And if we can't trust each other, we will fall apart, just like the many empires before us. The younger leader looked down for a moment, thinking deeply. Then he nodded. Perhaps you are right. The truth is the only way forward. The old leader smiled, a rare expression for his kind. Then it is decided. We will move forward, not with secrecy, but with honesty. We will face the challenges ahead together, as allies, not as enemies. Reeve nodded, a small smile appearing on his face. Thank you, he said simply. The real work begins now. As the meeting began to wind down, the alien leaders stood and began to shake hands, exchanging looks of mutual respect. The tension in the room had eased, replaced by the beginnings of something new. The council was no longer just a group of divided species. It was now a united front, one that had agreed to face the future with trust and cooperation. Reeve turned to leave, his mission accomplished. The galaxy was still a long way from perfect, but for the first time in history, the leaders of the galaxy had agreed to work together, honestly. And that Reeve knew was just the beginning. As he stepped into the hallway, he took a deep breath. The air felt different. It felt lighter, freer. The weight of the past had been lifted, and the future, though uncertain, now held the promise of something better. Something that would allow humanity to take its place in the stars, not as conquerors, but as true partners in the galactic community. Reeve looked up at the stars outside, his heart filled with quiet hope. The galaxy was vast, but for the first time, humanity had found its voice, and with that voice, it would change everything.